All right. Hit the show.
Hit the show? That's not a saying. That's not an expression, Tavi.
It is now, all right? It is now.
Hello, everybody. Hello,
Hit the fucking show, Dan. I'm going to keep interrupting you until you acknowledge my new catchphrase.
All right. I'm going to hit the show, Tavi. You ready?
You can hit the show. Go for it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with a H. With me, as always, is my co-host, Tavi. Hey, Tavi.
Oh, it's a spooky.
Yes,
Ooh,
spookiest time of year.
Yeah, we're traveling backwards and forwards in time to get this Randy
this is the spookiest way to do a podcast.
I know, right?
Completely out of order.
Where are we? Why does the Atmos sound different?
This is
Why are levels weird?
This is a real Frankenstein's monster of an episode. Just
a lot of our shit is like pretty like patchwork. Well, there is a reason for that. It's because you and I are actually disappearing for the spooky month.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're going to be spending it in Japan.
Yes, we're going on a much needed but little deserved vacation. Yes.
That is very apt. That's a very apt description of our trip. You know, it's all right.
You know, sometimes you just gotta spoil yourself.
Just go on a break.
We'll still be releasing stuff throughout the spooky season, but it might be quite sporadic. Depends. We haven't really figured out a schedule, but
we don't have a plan because we don't have a manager.
Yeah.
So that's why all of our shit
Remember
is like
back in the day
scattered.
when we actually planned stuff, Tavi?
Yeah.
That seems so long ago.
Yeah. There was a bunch of stuff that we wanted to do, but yeah, it's just hard.
But no, we are going to put stuff out during October. Some of it will be video content exclusive to our YouTube channel. So if you are listening to this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, maybe check out our YouTube channel because there's some funny little videos go up there sometimes, including K-pop, quote-unquote reactions. Those ones people really love.
Including not starting feuds with hype acolytes.
Yes. Not engaging with them.
Not engaging with them at all.
We've also got little bonus videos and video game Let's Plays up there. So check it out if you haven't already.
Yeah, it's a mixed Frankenstein's mesh of identity crisis of a YouTube channel. Yeah. But that's all right. We're just hanging out. It's all right.
Just hanging out. We're just having a good time. It's all good.
Yeah, just hanging out in our late 30s. It's fine. We deserve it.
But as you mentioned, it is a spooky season time. And you know what that means? Spooky movies. So in today's episode, we are going to do a bunch of mini reviews for a bunch of horror movies that we have watched recently. So we've got
aren't Asian cinema, as we've said in our.
Well, the main review is the Asian cinema one. So,
it is.
But yes, the mini reviews will include Strange Darling, The Substance, Speak No Evil, both the Danish-Dutch version and the American remake version, as well as In a Violent Nature. Before getting on.
Oh, you watched that movie?
I didn't watch it. That. Remember, like a while ago, you did a mini review for it, Tavi? That's part of this. That's part of this Frankenstein's monster.
You try to stitch it together. You put the needle through the flesh right there. Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Before we get to the main review of today's episode, which is Handsome Guys, a remake of Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I mean, I guess I know we try not to make a habit of announcing things because otherwise we have to do it, but then we don't. But we will have, I guess, our marquee episode, A Tale of Two Sisters, that we recorded last year with Character Chaos, in which Margeret actually said, you guys should just release it next year. And then we are actually releasing it a year later. Yeah.
Bringing shit back from the dead. This really is the spookiest time of year, Tavi.
It is, I know.
But as usual, I will put in time codes if you want to jump around to whatever part of the episode you're interested in. Let's start it off, Tavi, with Strange Darling. A movie that I think you should go in blind. So if you haven't watched it and you're interested in watching it, skip this part because Yeah.
Then why are we talking about it?
Yeah, because we want to talk. We're just having fun, Tavi. We're just having fun.
What if someone's driving and they want to watch it and they can't skip
then
it?
they need to crash their car right now to avoid listening to this. Because we're probably... we'll try to avoid spoilers, but it really is the kind of movie that you should go in blind, I reckon.
Yeah.
That's how I went into it, and I do not regret that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this film.
Yeah, you told me to watch this movie. I hadn't heard nothing about this movie except that it was a thriller, but you told me to go in pretty blind as well. The only thing I knew about this movie was that it's shot out of order and it's shot on 35mm film. But yeah, no, I don't regret watching this movie either.
Did you know that it was the cinematography debut of Giovanni Ribisi?
Yeah, the unobtainian guy.
Yes, the unobtainian guy. Phoebe's brother from Friends.
The guy who gets shot in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, beloved character actor Giovanni Ribisi shot this film on 35mm. Very interesting.
It's funny because I know that guy in a lot of stuff, but I actually struggle to remember what his standout roles are. All I know is
you mentioned it already. It's unobtainium guy,
unobtainium guy, and guy who gets shot in Saving Private Ryan. Yeah. That's all I can think of, which is kind of sad because it's been around for a while.
He
did a good job. He's a good actor
and a good cinematographer. It turns out. This film looks really good. So just a quick synopsis. This film is set in rural Oregon. The film focuses on a man and a woman who engage in a one-night stand that devolves into a cat and mouse game of murder. It's divided into 6 narrative chapters, arranged in non-linear order, as you mentioned. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool film, pretty slick film. I think it toes that line of artsy and entertaining really well.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're making a lot of use with their lower budget. It is kind of hard to talk about this movie without saying things for you to expect, but it is a pretty subversive film because the premise of it is actually quite simple, but then it's kind of not. I think this is what people were expecting when they were going to watch In a Violent Nature.
Okay.
And I remember from that review, traveling back in time again, that I think that movie was kind of trying to be too smart for its own good. But I have since watched some videos commenting on it, and I think someone's quoted the director saying look, I did shoot it in a pretty unique way, but it's not anything super groundbreaking. It shouldn't be it's not a super deep film. It's just I don't know whether that's him just trying to do oh shit, people think it's deep. Nah, it's just a slasher. Just enjoy it, just have fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he said. But yeah, I'm not sure this film is. I mean, I only seen this once, and it was a few weeks ago. Whether or not it has I guess. There might be some social commentary.
Oh, there's
in
definitely
this film.
social commentary.
Yeah. Just trying to think about it now. Yeah, that I can't
Strong
really
women,
explain.
Tavi. Strong women.
Strong women.
But it was when I first started watching the film, and it's shot in 35mm, and it looks like that, and then the title credits pop up, and it's Willa Fitzgerald as the lady, in that kind of font. I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit because I was like, oh man, this is going to be a real wanky film. But it isn't really, I don't think. I think it's very easy to digest, even if you're not.
I think so. Yeah.
Even if you're not that much of a filmy.
Yeah, very easy to digest, actually. I don't think there's anything that is difficult to understand about this movie.
Well, the non-linear format might throw people off, but it's still pretty easy to follow. Guess.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, this movie is just really easy to follow, and if you can't follow it, then I don't know. I don't know how to help you, man.
No, it's fun. I think the performances are really fun as well, and the
good chemistry.
Yeah, the chemistry between the two
leads.
Leads, and the actors are not super well known, I think.
No, I haven't seen nor heard of them.
I've seen Willa Fitzgerald in that season of Reacher that I watched. She's in that.
Okay, yeah.
She was all right in that. I don't know Kyle Gallner, who is credited as the demon, but he kind of looks like just an Aussie bloke, you know?
Yeah. Is he Aussie though?
Let's have a look.
No, he's American, according to Wiki.
Yeah.
He was in Veronica Mars and Smallville. He's been acting for a little while, it seems. He's like around our age,
Yeah, they both seem seasoned, but not like overly recognizable, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do a really good job. And I think the non-linear format of the story really lends well to the subversive nature of the narrative. I think like the themes that it touches on are not ham-fisted, I would say. Like it's kind of there, but like it's not the main point of the film. I think the main point of the film is just to entertain with like a fairly by the numbers story that's told in a different way, I guess.
Yeah, it's told in a different way. Like I think you were saying, like it is. I think this is a pretty slick film, and even the quiet moments are still quite fun to watch, and the elements of it are quite tense still. If you see them, it's hard to describe without spoiling. But when you watch them, even the quiet moments are very tense.
Yeah.
Even though it has a modest budget, and you can tell that there is a budget to like the action, but it paces itself quite well. It's never boring.
It's pretty grisly at times.
And
pretty funny at times as well, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There's like this there's these two characters that are like hippies that live in the hills, and there's like a whole scene dedicated to them making this disgusting breakfast. It's kind of filmed like top down on the pan, and it's great. It's so good.
It's a very American breakfast, even though they're hippies. Yeah.
Yeah, funny stuff.
Some Americans would love that shit, man. What is it? It's like sausages and
I think if you've been smoking weed for like several decades, you'd love that kind of breakfast.
Yeah, that got a bit of a chuckle in our audience as well. But yeah, like go watch this movie if it's still out there by the time this. I think it actually has been released digitally now.
It's not a bad streaming film as well, I reckon. If you haven't been able to catch it in theaters.
It's pretty short, so if your brain is still like on TikTok juice, you might be able to sit through it. Unless, there's no Skibbity in it, so you can't like if you're that far gone, then I can't help you either.
Yeah. There is a toilet in it.
Oh yeah. But no, go check it out. Like I think this is a really cool movie. It's kind of like an underrated film of the year. There's not that much buzz about it. Like again, like I didn't know about it until you told me to watch it, and I enjoyed it.
I don't think it's anything like hugely groundbreaking or anything, but it's very entertaining. I found it like a very entertaining film, and pretty good craft as well, I'd say. Strong vision. Well executed.
Definitely, very strong vision. Good on you, Anatolian guy. You obtained the cinematography skills.
Yes, and the director, JT Mollner, who I'm not familiar with.
I haven't seen anything from him either. None of his stuff looks familiar to me, but maybe I should give it a go. Yeah, sure.
All right, shall we move it along?
Yeah.
Let's talk about The Substance.
Another weirdly art housey, entertaining movie as well.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Albeit with a bit more buzz than Strange Darling. So The Substance is a satirical body horror film written and directed by Coralie Fargeat. Sorry if I mispronounced that. It stars Demi Moore, Margeret, Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. The plot follows a fading...
It's Margeret Qualley.
Sorry, Demi Moore, Margeret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid.
And Coralie Fargeat or something. I don't know. She's French.
Fargeat.
When I watched this movie, I was like, this is definitely a French director. Like its content is very French extreme horror. Yeah, for sure.
The plot follows a fading celebrity played by Moore who uses a black market drug that temporarily creates a younger version of herself, played by Qualley, with unexpected side effects. When they say body horror, it really is that. Before I watched this film, it was described as Cronenberg-esque, and I think that's pretty apt.
Yeah, well, Coralie says a lot of her influences, Carpenter. She said The Thing was a big influence, which you could obviously see. Cronenberg. Her vision is very strong, and she's really into horror. Yeah, I actually heard about this movie when it came out for Myth, which for this year, I didn't actually go watch any movies at MIF.
Really?
Which is unusual.
That's unprecedented.
Yeah, it's unprecedented. Yeah, I think I was quite busy with some shit at the time, and I didn't see anything that I immediately wanted to see. I guess there was no Park Chan-wook or Kim Ji-won this time around. There were a couple of Chinese movies I wanted to see, but I didn't end up going to see them. But anyway, The Substance was one, and I think I heard some people like kind of talk about it. And I heard that it was very, very positively received. Demi Moore, she got a Best Actress something. I think it's Cannes, but
Fargeat won Best Screenplay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I think Moore is just getting a lot of recognition for like being heavily committed to the role, which
would have been a really hard film for her to be in, I say, because the fading celebrity played by Moore, it is kind of like who she is, I guess, in reality, in real life.
Yeah,
I mean, she's obviously very successful still, but she has been kind of out of the limelight for a while, and she is, by like societal standards, pretty old for an actress, So like I feel like a lot of the issues tackled in this film is probably stuff that she thinks about a lot.
Well, she's 61 years old, so like they made her younger in the movie. I mean, like she's still like pretty good looking for her age as well. So it's like, and they do it well. A lot of it is probably the cinematic eye and makeup, because like the makeup team obviously did a smack bang job on this makeup and special effects. I guess
I don't know much
really
about the
job.
production, but I imagine a lot of the effects are practical in camera.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the body horror in this movie. It's very fun to watch. I enjoyed the horror elements a lot because this year I have been complaining a lot about the kind of the Blumhouse era of horror, where everything is very
low impact,
quite soft. I was complaining about that, so it was very fun to see a no holds bar body horror film and go all out there. There is like liters of blood. Probably the most violent movie I've seen
from
this
very
year.
early on as well. Like even hearing the premise, I did not expect, without going into major spoilers, like the way that the younger version is created from Moore's character. It's really gruesome, like and I didn't expect that, like right from the get-go, and that kind of sets it up. And that's like one of the softer things that happens in the course of the film. So really good stuff. You're right. It definitely doesn't hold back in terms of the body horror. It has a goal, and the goal is to gross people out as much as it can. And I think it does achieve. It's really funny actually. When we went to watch this in the cinema, right? There was a lady sitting in front of us, kind of like an older Aussie lady, I think. And right at the start of the film, there's like the imagery of like an egg, right? Like a cracked egg, and then like a syringe going into the egg, right? And the lady in front of us kind of like chuckled at that imagery. But I think by the time the movie finished, she wasn't chuckling no more.
She was too much. It was too much. It's funny, your partner was telling me how this movie was being, I guess, spooked by the Drew Barrymore talk show.
Oh, yeah.
Which most of it is like kind of the audience that would not usually watch a horror movie. It'd be people that watch that like, what's that? This is the end of us or something.
Oh yeah, sure.
This is us. This is the end of us or something.
It ends with us.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So that's the kind of target audience that would usually watch the Drew Barrymore show. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, go watch this show because it makes sense because the themes are very like feminist, and like
it's about body dysmorphia,
right? And it's obviously about like beauty standards and whatnot. But I don't think any of the themes takes away from the movie. I think they're intertwined really well.
I think if anything, it enhances it. I think
for sure.
Like the thing I like about this film is that there's a lot of scenes of Margeret Qualley's character. Who is obviously the younger version of Moore's character, and she's like this kind of like aerobics TV personality, right? So there's
Yeah.
like a lot of gratuitous shots of
There's
her
a lot of
doing
gratuitous, like,
her like
ass
routine,
shots.
yeah. So it's kind of like it's clever in a way that it puts the audience in the role as like the male gaze, kind of like
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So it almost makes the audience like a part of the problem, I guess, that more faces.
Yeah, it's true. So I guess it kind of challenges you in that sense because, like, you're obviously going to find that like pretty attractive to watch, and then you kind of think about it. Even when I was watching, it's like, you know, I mean, she's got a good body, but it's also like, oh, I feel a bit bad because isn't this movie kind of trying to make me feel bad about like enjoying it? But then it's just like, it's fine. It's a movie. But what I liked about this movie a lot is the editing. It's very frantic. The music is very like high octane, like electronic music. It's very anxiety inducing.
Right.
And there's a lot of like really funny shots and clever shots. I think Demi Moore said the most frightening scene of this movie is actually none of the violence. Is Dennis Quaid
eating the shrimp.
Yeah. And that scene is really grossly done. And it's really, his character, he's obviously like a stand-in for Harvey Weinstein.
Sure.
Because a character just calls him Harvey. He does a really fun job at portraying like a really slimy guy. Yeah, I think this movie was pretty well casted. The editing is really good. And I really enjoyed the body horror is where this movie does shine.
Yeah.
I really like Coralie's vision because after this movie, I was like, oh, what else has she done? And she did a movie for Shudder a few years ago called Revenge. It is also like maybe not as violent as this movie, but it's still like very high impact. Like there is a lot of blood in that movie as well. So yeah, I really like this director's vision. I think my only criticism of this movie is that it's maybe just a little bit too long. I think there could be some fat to chew off.
Okay.
Like this movie is like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think it's just a tad too long.
Okay.
Yeah. I could start, like, as much as I was enjoying this movie, I could actually start to feel it sort of like dragging on a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Because it's when, like, I think there's a lot of shots of like Demi Moore going to get the substance, which we kind of established, and you kind of see it over and over again as well. So, yeah. But I would say that's pretty minor criticism as well.
Yeah, I think the ending, because it's so crazy, it probably pulls you back in, right? But yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah, like there's some parts in the midsection maybe, or the tail end of the second act that could be cut out, I guess. I really like the way that it tackles this issue as well. I think there's a scene in this film that I've genuinely felt bad for Demi Moore's character when she's trying to leave the house, but she keeps like seeing Margeret Qualley's character, and she just finds it like it cripples her to the point where she can't even leave the house as her regular self. Like you genuinely feel bad for her. And that's like for a film like this, where it is kind of like crazy at times, it is very impressive that you're still able to land these emotional beats. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm happy that like Coralie stuck with her vision, because it could easily have been watered down.
It wasn't produced by Blumhouse, Tavi, so...
Yeah, it was produced by Mubi, which I used to have a subscription to, but I had to cancel it because I'm poor and going to Japan.
Yeah.
So I partly funded this movie, I guess, but it's
thanks, Tavi.
yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah, that's right. Like it kind of harkens back to the era of when I was reading some articles about like people walking out of the theater and just walking out, like it kind of reminds me of the days when, like, you know, Takashi Miike would release a film or, you know, Battle Royale came out, and then people walking out because it was too intense is kind of like a badge of honor.
That's making a comeback, Tavi.
Yeah,
Terrifier 3.
Yeah,
I hear people are walking out of that.
Yeah. Did you like? I think this movie is pretty violent, but I never really felt like I wanted to walk out.
It's violent, but it's also pretty gross. Like
it's gross.
Like you mentioned the shrimp thing. Some of the gross bits are not like overly violent.
Yeah.
There's a bit where she pulls like a chicken drumstick out of her belly button. I was like, oh yeah, don't like that.
Yeah.
So and that's just a mere taste of, of what's included in this film.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like you're there for it, right? You got to know what you're walking into.
I would say this film still, like, as violent as it still probably falls behind the sadness in terms of its graphic content.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's that's our meter for violence, I suppose. It doesn't hit quite Martyrs, like it's definitely below Martyrs. Yeah, that's a pretty fucked up movie. But like I do have a soft spot for like the French extreme horror, like. Obviously, High Tension was a pretty popular one.
Raw.
I watched this movie, Raw, yeah. I haven't seen Titan yet. There's one I watched ages ago. I think it was called Inside. It's about like a pregnant lady who is being harassed by like a stalker, like a female stalker claiming that it's her baby or something. That's a pretty fucked up movie as well. Yeah. No, I'm definitely down to see a lot more work from this director. And I just love her vision. I love her influences. And for all those like people out there who say that women can't direct movies, it's just like, I mean, watch this fucking movie because it's really well directed. Yeah, it's great. And watch Revenge as well. Revenge is really cool. I actually really enjoyed that movie. There's one bit where you really have to suspend your disbelief with Revenge, but ultimately it's a pretty fun movie as well. So looking forward to watching more films from this director.
All right, let's move it along, shall we?
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about Speak No Evil next. So I have only seen the American remake, but you've seen both the American remake.
I've seen both.
And the 2022 Danish-Dutch original. So you'll be able to compare the two. I think we might talk a little bit of spoilers about this film if we are comparing the two, because from what I've heard, it's just the ending, right? That's fairly different. I guess like
there's some little minor things, and like basically the feel of the movie.
I guess I'm talking more narratively, right? Like the ending is where it's different.
The plot is mostly the same. Yeah.
Basically, it follows a family who meet another family on vacation, and then when they get back from vacation, they are invited to stay at a remote farmhouse together, and it turns out that the family that they met is crazy, a bunch of murderers, and the situation escalates from there. So
very simple plot. If you really think about it. I'd been wanting to watch this movie for a while, the original one anyway. But I heard that it's a very bleak movie. So I was waiting for the time when I was in the mood for it. So I watched it with like 3 friends and a bunch of beers. And that was actually a really good viewing experience. Because it kind of mitigates the bleakness of the movie. I think the remake is not bad. I think it's a fine movie. Is slightly better than the other Blumhouse stuff, maybe.
I think it's a pretty simple movie that is greatly elevated by the performances of some of the actors in it. As particularly James McAvoy. He's just killing it.
But I mean, the original is, without a shadow of a doubt, far superior in like a lot of ways. When I finished watching the original film, I thought, like, there's excellent performances. Its themes drive hard, and its sense of dread is very apparent. It's very palpable. But by the end of the movie, I was like, I'm not sure if I liked the movie that much, because it is like such a downer ending, which is not the case for the remake, which I kind of expected because it's a Blumhouse American remake. But I mean, if we're talking about the performances between, like, I guess the McAvoy character, like the...
So James McAvoy in the remake plays the patriarch of the murder family.
Yeah, Patrick.
Yes.
He's Paddy in the...
oh, yes. He's British in the remake.
Yeah. It's funny because when I watched the trailer for the original, I was like, oh, Patrick seems very underplayed. Like, he seems like someone that you could actually hang out with. And I think... That's kind of what is lost with the McAvoy performance.
Okay.
As entertaining as it is, the red flags are very immediate.
You reckon? I don't know about that.
Like,
You mean when they meet them on holiday?
when they meet them on holiday,
You know?
it's just like he's like an asshole to the that Danish couple that talk about
Yeah,
like
but the
cooking
American
all the
couple
time.
didn't like them either. So
Yeah, but like I know they're both jerks, but the way he kind of pulled them out on that is kind of like you wouldn't like say that shit. Whereas there's stuff that Patrick does in the original movie where it's like it's kind of weird what you're saying, but it's quite grounded. It's quite naturalistic. Because a lot of the original movie is you like yelling at the screen saying, "Don't do that, don't go,
yeah.
just don't." Like you're all fucked. And the one big difference I noticed in the remake, you know, when he goes back to like look for the bunny.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a bit where it's like the red flags had kind of built up in the movie, and they're like, "Nah, we're leaving."
Yeah,
so
it wasn't to the point where you know that they're murderers yet, but you know
they're just like
they're weird and probably you want to get away from them quickly.
But like,
and they're driving away, right?
They're pretty much they're out of danger. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the daughter realizes that she's left her comfort bunny, her stuffed toy at the house. So she kicks up a fuss and forces her parents to go back and get it. And that was a point in the remake where both me and my partner were saying, you're fucked.
But like the thing is, what they change in the remake is it's like the son finds it, but in the original, like he goes back and he goes into the house, and then the daughter like is like, "Oh, it was like under this chair." And then that is just like, "Oh, you fucking like you little bitch," and we're all just saying, "Oh, it's the rabbit is the real evil person. Like he planned it all, that little bastard." And then I was just like, I kind of like you kind of lose that a little bit,
right?
And you lose a lot of the score because I think in the original film there's a lot of surprisingly like unsubtle like horror stings over like very mundane scenes happening, just like of them traveling, of them like waiting on a boat or something where they're not doing anything.
So kind of like a Kubrick's The Shining situation.
Actually, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah. Whereas, in the remake, there's not that much to telegraph that, because I guess it's all telegraphed in McAvoy's performance, which he does like steal the show, but it's also like it's hard because they're trying to do something different, and James Watkins is the director for the remake, and he has his own like bleak, feel bad horror movie. I think it's called Eden Lake, which I haven't seen. It's about like the couple that go on holiday and they get like harassed by chavs.
Okay.
And that also has like a pretty bleak ending. So I think the director that they got is probably very competent to do this kind of movie.
You're gonna blame Blumhouse, aren't you?
Of course I blame Blumhouse because I think this movie, the remake, ends up being too generic with how much lighter it feels rather than like the heaviness of the original movie, because the performances are so like naturalistic.
Yeah.
But the tension and the shit that they do, that like the red flags, it just feels stronger. Like when they go to the dinner and they like have a dance. Like in the remake, it's like, it's a pretend blowjob, but in the original, it's just like a dance, and then he makes him pay. But then they skip the scene where he's like driving home like drunk, and he's just playing music too loud, and that's like what triggers them to like just leave. Like they want to leave on that first night. But also, I found the performance of the normal dad, Ben
Scoot McNairy in the remake. Yeah.
I'm not sure if the performance. I wouldn't say the performance sucks, but the character sucks. Like he's just a whinger, and he just complains all the time. Whereas like in the original, the complaints, and it's all like bottled in, like with a smile.
Right.
Like I don't know, because like in the remake, he makes a massive deal about like his daughter wanting a bunny.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like that's not like a thing at all.
Well, because I haven't seen the original, but I think the remake is kind of like a little bit of an exploration of toxic masculinity as well. So I think that's the reason why his character is like that, because, you know, he's got his own like version of masculinity, right?
It's a very American thing to do.
Yeah. But it kind of tracks with the characters as well. Like, it makes sense that he would be he would gravitate towards James McAvoy's character, because James McAvoy's character says what he wants to say. You know, he wants to tell this Danish couple to fuck off or whatever, but he can't. So like, yeah, it kind of tracks with their characters, I think.
But he does that in the original, but without it like being as, I guess, overt, I suppose. Because you kind of do like want to be like this other guy who's more free. But I think there are points where he does exert himself still when like they hit those points of red flags and he like really, he speaks like his mind.
Right.
Because there is a final confrontation in the remake where he's like useless.
Yeah. Well, let's talk full spoilers now. So we'll talk about the ending from here. Yeah. So the main difference from my understanding is that in the original, the bleak ending is what they go with, where the couple gets captured and stoned to death. Is that what happens?
Yeah, that's what happens. It is really like it's so grim, because the movie, it's not a violent movie until the last like 10 minutes of it. So what happens in the original is like they get caught by Patrick and the wife, and then like the mum's trying to reassure the daughter that everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But you know it's not. And then like the babysitter comes and they grab her, and then like the wife is like holding the tongue out and she like cuts the tongue off. And then like you kind of see it, and then it's just there's a lot of blood, and they kind of make a subtle nod where it's like James McAvoy is like, oh, when they revealed to be serial killers, we use like veterinary ketamine because like they flail around too much and it makes a bloody mess.
Yeah.
Whereas like that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And then you know the scene where McAvoy, I guess, takes the dad to like that area to scream and to let out all his rage. So in the original, he takes him there, and like the way that the sound design shows it, like they're screaming, but it's really, really quiet. Like you can't actually hear the scream until there's a cut to like a close up.
Yeah.
So what happens at the end is he takes them back to this exact field, because what he wanted to illustrate is that no matter how much you scream, like no one is going to hear you.
Yeah.
So like they just kill them, stone them to death.
Right. Different from the remake.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I liked with the remake where it might not have worked in the original, but the boy is not obviously McAvoy's son, because they just kidnap kids and make them their own kids, right?
Yeah.
So he tries to warn the family a bit more, whereas like he doesn't really do that in the original.
Sure.
He's kind of like, just there. But the dancing scene is so hard to watch in the original, because in the remake, I think that I'm not sure if the kid actor was like good enough, but he kind of turns around so you can't see him cry. But that scene goes on for like, I want to say a long time in the original, but it's kind of excruciating that the way that the father, because it's not overacting, it's very like, again, it's naturalistic, so it really feels quite vicious, I think.
Right.
Yeah. And in the original, Patrick just kills the kid, just drowns him in a pool.
Jeez.
So when the dad discovers like that they've been killing families. So it's not the daughter that discovers it.
Yeah.
In the original, it's the dad. So that's why he wants to leave. And then he just comes across the body of the kid just floating in the lake in the pool, and it's grim. The thing is, I can see like the reason to make Speak No Evil the way that the Blumhouse did it. Yeah. Because it's a much more palatable
It's way
film.
Easier to watch, it seems.
It's way easier to watch.
Like, so the ending of the remake, the family doesn't get killed. They escape into the house, and then the murder family has to kind of try to siege the house to get to them. And silence them, right? And the good family manages to fend them off and escape, killing the murder family in the process.
Yeah.
So it does take a bit of a turn into like almost a Home Alone-esque style.
And like the thing is, it's fun to watch. I don't think it's bad either. Like I don't think the remake is bad. It's actually out there, like probably one of the quote unquote better remakes out there. It does capture the same themes. Yeah, I would say it has the same atmosphere, just much lighter, which unfortunately, I guess it kind of sullies the point of the traumatizing ending of the first movie.
Yeah.
Because I think it's you would get a lot more out of the first movie, even though it's harder to watch. But sometimes, like, you got to take the bitter pill because, and this is what the original director, what's the Christian Taftrop, he criticized the final act of the remake.
He
says, like, I don't know. Yeah. He said, I don't know why Americans always have to see that, like, good triumphs over evil all the time. Because I think sometimes you probably need that stark reminder that evil will just prevail. And it's a hard lesson. It's kind of like, fairy tales, like, all the Brothers Grimm shit, all the Hans Christian Andersen stuff. And then Disney came along and made it their own, and then that's become the simulacra now. It's overtaken the original
look at this
message
guy.
of the original.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I've been well rested today. It's overtaken the meaning. I think that's what the term is. I could be wrong. Someone put in the comments there, you don't know fucking English, you stupid. But yeah, I think as a piece of entertainment, the remake is just fine. You'll forget about it because nothing spectacular really happens in the movie. It's kind of like, there's a bit of a scuffle. And I was saying before, the dad in the remake is just useless.
He doesn't do anything, huh?
Yeah, the wife does everything.
And I feel like that's also that like adds to that, that commentary on toxic masculinity, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, let him do something.
Well, the kid does something, doesn't he? He smashes James McAvoy's face with a rock.
The kid does something. The little girl does something. The wife does something. But the man, he's just useless. Yeah. And I don't think the writer it was intended to this, but it is just it is a pattern in Hollywood to like demasculate.
I did enjoy when he tried to get the guy with that hammer and he just failed.
Yeah,
that was really fun.
Failed. Yeah. Like, you're supposed to, I hated the character. He's just like, he just kind of stumbles across everything. Like, the daughter tells the mother about the thing. Yeah, that's fine. She can tell anyone. But then it's like, oh shit, well, I guess we gotta go. And then he's just like, he never really like calls the shots, I guess, which is their commentary.
Yeah, I kind of like it in a sense. It's a bit real, It's kind of like, what would you do in that situation kind of thing, Like,
but the wife is so much more competent than him, though.
Yeah.
Like, way more competent.
Yeah.
Like movie hero, like action movie hero.
Yeah, she's the John McClane of this story.
Yeah, she's a John McClane. Yeah,
and fair enough. I think my wife would also be the more competent one in that situation. That doesn't mean I'm useless, Darby.
But I think it's just like that kind of the meekness is played just much better in the original because I think. Some people said it's kind of a commentary on like Danish friendliness, where a lot of people just don't really want to say what they want to say. Because I mean, like the movie is called "Speak No Evil," so obviously, like, don't say anything bad. This is a good movie for all those people that say, "If you got nothing bad to say, don't say anything at all." And then it's just like, oh well, unless you get killed and stoned to death, and your daughter gets a tongue cut out and ends up being part of another cycle of serial killers, and she'll eventually get killed by the family. Yeah, so it's just going to keep continuing. Yeah, but yeah, it's just, if I was the husband in the remake and I was just a guy that didn't like anybody, I wouldn't want to go hang out at James McAvoy's place. The guy looks crazy. Like, look at him, this guy's crazy looking.
He really reminds me of a friend that we have. Like that guy.
We'll go hang. Yeah, I think when we go visit them in the UK, is like,
for sure.
Yeah, we'll get
they
we'll
live
get
in a town like this.
Why are you doing this? Because you let me.
I don't know.
That's a long con. 8 years.
It's a real long con. Yeah.
It's a long con.
I mean, like, I honestly didn't have any knowledge of the original film going into this remake. I found it to be a pretty entertaining film, albeit like, maybe it's a bit forgettable. And
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty fun.
I think it being forgettable is kind of not good in a sense. Because, like, I've been thinking about the original movie for a while now because it's like, damn, man, that's rough. Like, geez, like, oh, it's so bleak. But I think it's obviously the original.
I think
wins.
a bleak movie is something that you kind of have to be in the mood to watch as well. Whereas the remake is probably something you could watch anytime and be fine with it.
Yeah, but I actually had a lot of fun watching the original with friends because we were just like yelling, like especially like the bit where they're back with the family and then they're kind of airing out all their grievances. We were just saying, just lie, just say you got work, you got work the next day, work cold, man, just lie. But obviously, with the commentary about how like friendly and nice you are, like and how much they struggle to lie because they'd be speaking evil in a sense as well. But no, definitely if you're the original is not for everyone, but I would highly recommend at least watching it once because I think it's it'll change you. I think
it will probably make you think twice about going to visit that friend that lives in the countryside, and that friend that you kind of know well but not that well. All right, Darby, shall we move it along? You watched a movie, didn't you?
I watched a slasher flick the other day. This one's been making its buzz around the horror circle. It's called In a Violent Nature.
Yeah, I've seen it around.
Yeah. There's been a lot of ads for it. So the premise is simple. It's just kind of a general Jason Voorhees style killer that's stalking the woods and killing a bunch of teens.
Yeah.
But the premise or the execution is that it is told mostly from the point of view of the killer, and its atmosphere is less cheesy, even though some of the acting might be cheesy at some points. It is quite a quiet movie. Like there is no soundtrack or score from my memory of this movie. I think the catalyst is these group of students. They're camping. Pretty much similar to Handsome Guys and Tucker and Dale, really. And then there's some kind of curse.
Classic 80s slasher situation.
Yeah, and then I think they took like a pendant or something that's keeping the curse at bay.
Man, what's with these kids and just taking obviously cursed items?
It's not a super long movie, probably just like an hour and 30 minutes, and it's probably like as it should be. But I think the difference is this movie is sort of touting itself as somewhat of an art house slasher movie.
Okay.
Because the cinematography is very beautiful. And a lot of it is just long tracking shots of the killer just like walking through the forest looking for his next victim. And it gets quite like mesmerizing at some points. And there are like a number of pretty fun kills. There's definitely, I would say that there's two marquee kills in this movie. One that is a lot more graphic and probably the most cartoonish out of the movie. When you watch it, you'll see.
So it's not shot in the same style as the 80s slasher film. Okay.
No, not really.
Just
it's
the
quite
premise
clean.
is okay.
Like, it's not using, like, film grain or anything like that. Okay. But, like, there's definitely a message that this movie is trying to say by the end of this movie, which I kind of get what it's going for. But my issue with this movie is that I get the impression is that it thinks it's smarter than it really is. Like, I like wanky films, and I like films with a lot of personality. But I think this one probably just tips it over to the edge a little bit where it's like, I feel like the director trying to say something deep, but it's like, it's kind of, and it's kind of hidden with all this like really nicely shot, imagery. But at the end of the day, it's a slasher film, right? And
you'd rather they just had some fun with it.
I mean, they definitely are having some fun. And I think it kind of like switches the tone of it because some of the kills, especially the marquee kill, it's really like graphic, but it's also quite cartoony. So it like kind of shifts tones a little bit like too much. And the ending definitely does subvert your like expectation, I think, as well. But it's also like, I mean, cool, but I feel like it would have been more enjoyable if it probably had a little bit more fun.
Okay.
But I think it's a good movie. You can definitely like see because there's a lot of kills, but like the budget kind of starts to show because there's a lot of like walking in this movie.
Well,
and I
that's
think
kind
that's
of
kind
in
of
line with the Jason Voorhees.
yeah.
Mike Myers. And stuff.
And I think this film is fairly divisive amongst horror fans.
Okay.
Because a lot of people say it's pretty boring. I wouldn't say it's boring, but it does get a little bit slow. There's one of the kills involves like a really long, drawn out thing, which I won't spoil here, which I actually kind of felt was fun to watch as well. Probably that's like the second marquee kill. But then a lot of the other ones, it's like, it's just someone getting like axed or getting something thrown at them.
Well,
and then
I
it's
mean,
just
like horror these days is a bit of a spectrum. It's a pretty broad genre.
Yeah.
Would you say that this film is more towards the elevated horror end of things, or would you say?
Yeah, I think it's trying to be elevated. I would say it's leaning more towards the elevated horror, just with its. I guess it feels like an art house movie, even if the subject matter and the genre maybe is not. It's not like an Ari Aster movie where it does feel like there's a bit. It's saying a little bit more, or like a Robert Eggers kind of horror. It's very simple in its premise.
So what you're saying is it's kind of mid and doesn't please anyone.
Yeah. I guess so. Like it's. I would say it's better than average because the premise, the premise is quite simple, but I think its execution is quite different, which I enjoy that they attempted to do something different. But probably it needs to spend a little bit more time in the oven on the script because the script itself and the actions that the characters take, it's too tropey for it to be like as art house as it's trying to be, because there's like some characters just do dumb things where it's just like, that's a 80s movie trope, which if it would make more sense in like a Voorhees or a slasher where it's kind of an elevated sense, but this one it seems like it's going for more realism, but then it's like, I don't know if these tropes really mingle that well.
A little bit
but
inconsistent.
it's kind of it's definitely experimental, which I appreciate. I would definitely recommend it and see what you think. Maybe other people might resonate with it a little bit more than I did.
It's got a pretty good selling point, like
definitely
a slasher from the point of view of the killer.
I think there could be a franchise. So I think this movie was pretty successful. Because it's definitely low budget. Like, I think that's the beauty of horror, and it's why investors really like making horror movies is because they're low budget and they earn a lot of money. Like
horror films and animated films. You don't have to pay anyone shit. You make it on the cheap.
Just crunch them, just crunch just make a million DC Justice League movies. People will watch them.
Love it.
Yeah. Like there's not really that much more to say about it really, because it's like it's a pretty simple, fun premise. Go watch it because there's some pretty fun kills in this movie. I would say.
I would say like the X series is kind of like an elevated take on the slasher genre.
Yeah, I would say so, especially with Pearl. Yeah, those are kind of more elevated, but I think there's a sense more of like pacing and progression, and
more
I think
intent, I guess.
Yeah. Its message and its characters are a lot deeper than probably the characters in A Violent Nature, but it's still like having a bit of fun as well. So I actually really enjoy the. I guess it's the X trilogy. Probably one of the better horror franchises that I've come across in the past few years. But in A Violent Nature, it could be a franchise because it's like, as with most slashers, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but it's like, it's pretty open-ended by the ending because like, sequels, And what's a slasher franchise or slasher movie without like 5 unnecessary sequels, It's kind of like part
Why
of the
even
course
bother?
of making a slasher. I mean, Ty West wants to make more like Maxine movies now, depending on how well Maxine does.
He did.
So
you know what? I recently saw like interview of Ty West and Mia Goth, and for some reason, I always imagined Ty West being black. And it's just like this white, like film student looking dude, and like he definitely knows what he's talking about. Like it was enjoyable listening to him talk about film, but I don't know why. I just thought he was black. I think it's because his name is Ty, and I associate that with T.I.
I can sort of see where you made that mistake. I knew he was white, but it is a pretty cool name, though. It's like, cool name. So it's
all right. Well, that sounds like a fairly fun, fairly artsy movie. But shall we move it along? Let's talk about a movie that's more on the fun side of artsy. I would say.
I wouldn't say this film is very art house at all. It's definitely it's definitely a blockbuster, fun horror comedy.
Yeah. So this is Handsome Guys, 2024 South Korean black comedy horror. Written and directed by Nam Dong-hyuk.
Yes, who I don't think I've seen any of his other work.
No. I think this movie definitely feels like a little bit slapped together, but in a good way kind of thing. Like a lot of South Korean productions kind of fall by the wayside because their media output is so large, right? And I feel like this is probably going to be one of those types of films.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that it's bad. I quite enjoyed this film.
Yeah, I mean, it got an Australian release, so like I'm assuming that there's some kind of excitement or, some investment. Yeah.
Was there anybody in your showing when you went to see it?
Yeah. Not as packed as Lan Ma, but like, there were quite a few. It was like, I would say half full.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Yeah.
There were like four people in my showing. four Korean people.
Oh, yeah. No, it was pretty, it was pretty decently full. I think I saw this movie at like 6 o'clock at Melbourne Central.
Okay.
And so people get off work and people had a lot of fun in my theater.
Should we do full spoilers for this film, you reckon? Or do
I reckon this is a full spoiler movie.
Yeah, okay. It's a lot of fun. If you've seen 2010's Canadian horror comedy Tucker and Dale versus Evil, this is a remake of that.
It is. Yeah.
And it is, for a lot of it is pretty much a one-to-one replica. But there is one pretty decisive difference in Handsome Guys. So if you are planning on seeing it, maybe go see it before coming back to this, because we're going to do full spoilers for this review.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a little bit of plot?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's basically the premise of the movie is that, I guess for both movies, is that there's two misunderstood country guys or hillbillies who a group of teenagers kind of come across, and then they assume that they are like vicious serial killers
because of how they look.
But they are just normal guys. And through a series of misunderstandings and accidents, the students end up getting killed, and most of the blame goes to our lead characters in both movies, and hijinks ensue, really. But there's some genre difference, I suppose, in Handsome Guys. It has more of a Raimi style supernatural element to it.
Yes.
Whereas Tucker and Dale is much more the slasher 80s flick. Yeah. But it's interesting because I first saw the trailer for this movie. And I'm like, this really looks like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Because I had no idea about anything about this remake. I had not heard that this movie was being remade at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that you see an Asian remake of a Western film. I think this might be the first one that we've actually covered on this podcast. Potentially.
Yeah. And I was curious because I always give a lot of shit.
Usually it's the other way around.
I give a lot of shit to American remakes of Asian productions, and a lot of my gripe with that is it's usually dumbed down because I'm going to talk about Tale of Two Sisters and The Uninvited, which is one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah.
It's like they've taken this really beautiful art house horror movie and turned it into just a dumb summer blockbuster movie that has no substance.
Yes.
But
we talked about The Killer.
Fucking hell. That fucking movie. But Tucker and Dale, the premise is that the killers are not actually killers. They're not killers at all. They're just normal guys. So
if you haven't seen Tucker and Dale, I would recommend it. I think that movie's a lot of fun.
It's really funny.
We recently
really
rewatched it for this episode, but it does hold up. It's got Alan Tudyk in it, which is always fun. You know, if it's in a good turn. We will go a bit more into the differences between these two films, but essentially, it is Tucker and Dale being mistaken for hillbilly serial killers by this group of unlikable teens. And I guess the joy of it is, you know, the comedic element of the misunderstandings, which carries on in Handsome Guys as well.
Yeah. I think the big thing I wanted to see was like whether or not the Korean version is going to be bad compared to because I quite like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I think the Korean version, it's pretty fun. It's pretty good. It captures like the same spirit as the original Tucker and Dale.
Yeah.
And I think there are some elements that it has improved on, but I think there are elements in Tucker and Dale that are better than Handsome Guys as well.
Okay.
So maybe we can even just do like a comparison, like the leads and the side characters and even the I guess the violence at some point, and even the shift of supernatural elements in Handsome Guys. Yeah.
So the opening is fairly similar. You know, the two lead characters, Jae Pil, who is played by Lee Sang-min, and Sang-gu, who is played by Lee Hee-jun, who we've previously seen in Badland Hunters.
I didn't realize it was
the bad guy in Badland Hunters, which was also a really fun.
Oh, is he the bad guy?
He's the bad guy, really fun performance in that movie.
Yeah, it was a really fun performance.
In that movie that nobody seemed to watch. But they're introduced as these two, I guess they're brothers in this, or are they just mates? Can't remember.
Yeah, actually, I think they're just mates.
He calls him Hyung, but I think they are just friends. Yeah, really close friends.
I think they're just friends.
Yeah.
Are they brothers in the first one, or Tucker and Dale?
No, they're just mates in the first one as well.
Yeah.
Tucker and Dale.
Okay.
So they're essentially the same kinds of characters. They look mean and scary on the outside, but they're really soft and nice on the inside. But you know, they come across these teens, or in this case, college students, I think.
They're college students.
I think that in both cases, they're college students, actually. And these college students, they look at them, and judging from their outwards appearance, they just assume that they're serial killers.
One of them played by Jung-ah from XCID.
Oh, yes.
I noticed, like, this chick looks really familiar as well.
We recently saw her in Mask Girl.
Who had a much significantly lesser role. Because there's only two girls in this movie, and she plays, like, the more unlikable character. But I recognize there is kind of like a lead girl.
Yeah. This character, Mina, played by Gong Seung-yeon.
Yeah.
She looks really familiar. What is she? What is she from?
I saw her in this movie called Aloners a little while back. Okay. But that's kind of just like an indie drama where she plays like an office lady who is sort of very downtrodden and just going through the flow. And it's got to teach like a younger person. But yeah, that kind of shit.
Yeah. But the cast of younger characters, they're all pretty similar to the Tucker and Dale predecessors. Bunch of frat boys. I think the lead, the main, like, the leader of the pack, the character's name in Handsome Guys is Lee Sang-bin. So he plays a professional golfer, or like an aspiring professional golfer in Handsome Guys. Whereas in Tucker and Dale, the leader is not that. He's not a professional athlete. He's just a dude, right? But this character difference between the main, I'm going to call him a villain, because I guess he is a villain.
He becomes the villain by the end of the movie.
It kind of comes into play because in Tucker and Dale, the reason that they want to rescue their friend from who they think are the serial killers, it's pretty righteous, I guess. Like, they legitimately think she's in danger, so they legitimately want to try to save her. with an element of like the main guy kind of wants to do it for the thrill of it, I guess.
Yeah, because he's basically evil at this point.
Yeah. He's a really fun character in Tucker and Dale. I'll probably talk about that a bit later. But in Handsome Guys, the character of Lee Sung-bin, he's really not a nice bloke. He's like, he's kind of like a sungri type of guy.
Yeah, I was going to say he's whatever that scandal is called. He's that kind of guy. So that's the kind of the Korean element to it.
Yeah, so the reason he wants to go save Mina is because she has his phone, which has a lot of incriminating evidence on it.
Yeah.
And that's the reason, like, all his friends want to try and save her as well.
It's interesting between, I guess, like, in terms of the side characters, and I guess Mina is the equivalent of Allison in Tucker and Dale.
Yeah.
In both movies, she's accidentally, like, not kidnapped, but she's like, she knocks herself unconscious in both situations, and then she wakes up in the house of Jae-pil and Sung-gu or Tucker and Dale, respectively, and she's like unconscious, and she basically forms a bond with Sung-gu. And I think in this movie, I feel like that relationship is actually better in Handsome Guys.
It's less pervy, for sure.
It's less pervy, but it feels more like there's more built upon it, I guess, and it feels natural. You can kind of see their chemistry is a bit better, where it's just like, oh yeah, she is, Allison is in the first one, but not really that much. She spends most of it like knocked unconscious. But going back to the two villains of the movie, I think Tucker and Dale does it better because there's a bit of a clearer message in Tucker and Dale, where the Handsome Guys, you said, it's a bit more slapdash. It's just like, let's put some supernatural elements in there. Yeah, let's put, the Sungri element in there.
I don't mind the idea of the Sungri element. I think it it's a kind of good justification for this cast of pretty unlikable people to try to help their friend Mina. It kind of undercuts a little bit of the comedy when the kids start getting killed, because in Tucker and Dale, like, the kids aren't that bad people, the majority of them. So when they get killed, it's kind of funny. Whereas in this one,
it is funny,
because like they are quite unlikable, these kids. When they get killed, maybe it's a little less funny. That said, I will say that the slapstick elements all work for me, I think. I think the kind of comedy in Tucker and Dale translates really well to Korean slapstick comedy.
It really does. I mean, we've got our boy Jung Gi-sul.
Yes, Park Ji-hwan playing
who has a much bigger
Choi.
role. There is a cop in the first one as well, but when I saw him, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a funny movie.
Like, both of the cops work well together. Lee Kyo-hyung is also playing like the deputy, I guess. Sung-kyung, we saw him in All of Us Are Dead, where I think he also played a cop in that.
There's a really funny. It kind of feels a bit forced in Handsome Guys, but I thought it was still really funny. There's like a bit where the students are sort of spying on the house to see if Mina is okay, and then they see her. She's like, it looks like she's screaming from getting choked out by Sung-gu. And it's like, oh my god, like he's killing her, but they're just arguing like over soap. Which is just like, I can't ever really see that situation, but the angle and the framing of it was just really funny. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. It's like, it's cute, but it's also like really silly at the same time. So yeah, I enjoyed that particular shot.
I thought you were going to talk about the bit where JPO cuts into the wasp nest, or the beehive. I mean, that scene works in both movies really well.
Yeah, that scene works in both.
Alan Tudyk is really good in Tucker and Dale.
Because you were saying, like, the humor works well because Koreans are really good at slapstick humor based on actions. And a lot of Tucker and Dale really utilizes that well. So I think in a sense that, like, this as a remake works pretty well because they've kept, like, the essence of what Tucker and Dale is. It's kind of like a silly slapstick play on like an 80s horror movie, just with a newer element added. I will have to say, though, what I didn't particularly like so much in Handsome Guys is the violence is definitely like toned down from Tucker and Dale, which kind of loses that comedic aspect as well for me, because a lot of the deaths are quite grisly in Tucker and Dale. Even though it's still like quite fun to watch, it's still like not as high impact in Handsome Guys, which I'm surprised. Yeah,
I guess an example is in both movies there's a scene where a guy jumps headfirst into a wood chipper, right? And
it's really funny.
in Tucker and Dale, like later on, they're trying to extract the bottom half of the corpse out of the wood chipper, and like they managed to do it, but like the legs and disembodied torso kind of get dragged along Dale, and like you see like you see the corpse, I guess, the mutilated corpse. Whereas I think in Handsome Guys, from memory, you don't really get to see that.
You don't really.
Yeah. It's definitely not as grisly.
Yeah, and even with because like the death of the XCID girl, it's similar to the guy in the first movie, who is just running and just not looking properly and runs into whereas this one, it seems like it's a bit more like, I mean, you see the thing like fall off, but you don't see it like pierce through her. It's just like it's just edited away. So they combined like those two deaths into one thing, whereas like it's just a lot more sillier in like the first one, because that shot of him just like free looking at that Tucker while he's like chasing him with a chainsaw. It's really funny. I think in the first one there's more teens.
Yeah, there are more teens.
Yeah. I feel like in Handsome Guys, having less teens probably does work a bit more, because there is a little bit of development, because there's this one dude who I actually quite enjoyed in Handsome Guys who hates like the villain.
Oh yeah.
And he's like like trying to screw him over. He's like, this fucking guy.
He's like the simp of the group, I guess. Yeah. He's the beta that they get to do their errands. Yeah.
And I like that element of him just really hating this guy, even though it probably doesn't really go.
Yeah, the payoff is not that good, because he just like.
But the setup is funny.
Yeah, the setup is really funny. I think all of the character interactions are probably a bit stronger in Handsome Guys in general.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah.
So it might be an acting thing, because Tucker and Dale is quite low budget, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, not to kind of disparage the actors in that, but they all seem like pretty new actors, I guess.
Yeah. Well, going for that slasher, you're not trying to get the best actors.
You're not going for Oscars, But I think just because in Handsome Guys, just because of the sheer volume of Korean actors that they have to choose from, I think maybe they're getting a bit more bang for their buck in terms of performances.
But I will have to say though, on like increasing the time that we get to like even the unlikable characters in Handsome Guy, I feel like the bromance is a lot stronger in Tucker and Dale.
Okay.
I feel like it's not as prominent in Handsome Guys, because there is a lot more time with Sunggu that he spends with Mina.
Yeah, okay.
So their relationship is built. Yeah. Whereas in Tucker and Dale, they're the focus of the movie, which is probably it's where it should be, because they are heroes, right? So you don't really feel as much for like J-Pill, whereas some stuff that happens to Tucker in the first movie, it's pretty grisly, especially when like the villain is like torturing him,
and
like cutting his fingers off. It's like, damn, man. Whereas in this one, like not too much is happening to him, and in terms of its title, Handsome Guys, the leads might actually be a bit too handsome to be like judged as serial killers.
Well, probably Tucker and Dale, Sungmin.
Whereas Tucker and Dale, they actually look like you're not gonna like fuck around with them, especially their expressions at the start of the movie where they're just like he's like kind of just maniacally laughing because he's awkward. They're both done pretty well, but I buy it a bit more in Tucker and Dale because I think I'm used to the hillbilly, like the psycho hillbilly look. So it is quite funny.
I think in Handsome Guys, they're going for more like a I Saw the Devil style kind of killer.
I think so,
which we haven't been exposed to as much as, the hillbilly archetype, I guess.
I mean, given the Korean beauty standards in the movie industry over there, even amongst the guys, you're trying to make your guys look like killers and they're still like, they're handsome guys. Like, I think they were pretty handsome guys throughout the whole movie. So, like, they didn't have a big issue with that. Yeah.
I guess we should talk about the major change in Handsome Guys, which is, as you've mentioned, the occult element. So
Yeah.
So from the opening scene, we get to see some occult stuff happening, right? Like the movie kind of opens with them, the college students hitting a goat with their car, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
No.
And this goat kind of kickstarts a chain reaction of a satanic ritual. So it turns out that the cabin that the Handsome Guys are renovating was once the site of some kind of exorcism. Right, that went slightly wrong.
Yeah. It's very Evil Dead.
Yes,
I guess.
Yeah, which makes sense on paper because I do think like that cabin in the woods situation is probably more leaning towards an occult story than a grounded story. Because like you said, Evil Dead. I mean, there's the movie Cabin in the Woods. You know what I mean? So yeah. But as the story progresses and the young people are kind of killed off, they contribute like their sacrifices to this satanic ritual that eventually lets out a demon in the climax of the film, a demon that possesses the body of the main antagonist, Sungbin. So it gets to a point where it goes fully Evil Dead. I think probably just at the start of the third act is when this
I
happens.
would say so. I mean, we see like the corpse of Jung Yi-soo, who's like, he dies the same way as the first cop.
Yeah.
It's just like a broken beam like slams into his head.
Yeah.
And he does become like ghoulified or zombified, however.
It's really funny though.
It's really funny. He does like this really like silly looking dance.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's really
Again,
dumb.
it's the Korean's body slapstick that is doing a lot of the heavy
really
lifting there. But this is where it takes a massive departure from Tucker and Dale's
How did you feel about like this element?
I wasn't totally opposed to it. I think initially when I watched Handsome Guys, I'm like, oh, why did they change this? It didn't seem like something that needed to be changed. But then I went back and watched Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And I do feel like the third act of Tucker and Dale is a little bit weak. And it does feel like it is missing something. So for context, if you haven't seen Tucker and Dale and for some reason are listening to this, I don't know how you're able to follow it. But in Tucker and Dale, the third act, so it is a completely grounded story. There's no supernatural elements. So when the cabin eventually kind of explodes, the main antagonist, he just turns into kind of like a scarred psychopathic killer that kidnaps the girl, and then it's up to Dale to go save the girl with like a chainsaw fight or something, or whatever happens in that film. It kind of felt a bit draggy to me. Like it was just kind of missing a little bit of impact, I feel like. Whereas in Handsome Guys, because there's so much silly stuff happening, maybe I felt a bit more engaged. But yeah, it is at the same time pretty messy. It does make the whole story kind of a bit messier. So to answer your question, I'm a bit mixed on it. But what did you think about it?
I would say that I'm mixed on it as well, but I would say my opinion of the climax in Tucker and Dale is actually stronger than this one because it's messy in Tucker and Dale because they've got like these extra students, right? And they haven't thought of a really creative death for them.
Sure.
So they kind of just have to kill them quite quickly in a confrontation. But the sole focus is that it is the villain who, in his self-righteousness, he has become like so evil that he's like blind to it. And I think like that movie's message is a bit stronger in that sense, where it's just like there is just evil. Like evil can be in the form of someone that is, just normal.
I mean, that guy was never really normal though in that film. He was always kind of like American Psycho-ish.
But it's like these like psychopathic tendencies.
But then there's a reveal as well that it's because he has hillbilly parents or hillbilly parents, hillbilly blood in him. So that's a bit like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit mixed, but I think it's just saying that it's like you are just as evil as how you want to feel, and you can't like really sort of like justify your actions or whatever. But I feel like the focus where he is still the villain out and out it's stronger. Whereas in Handsome Guys, just giving it to some like devil dude, it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of the same as in Shang-Chi, where Tony Leung's character should have been like the main force that's like building up to this really, I guess, emotional climax. Was it, nah, we gotta have a big dragon fight.
Yeah.
So
it is a bit of a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. The spectacle is fun, and I did like the very Raimi like goat, like when it possesses people, you see people like running on all fours, but it's obviously done in a very kind of like a janky, cheap way that actually makes it like look funny.
Yeah.
And it is quite fun to watch as well. And I do like how the three of them kind of team up and try to take this goat demon down.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty funny with Jang Su's cop buddy whose just pants are just constantly on fire or something.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
I like the introduction of like the priest character who,
the priest
who comes
character.
back for a heroic moment but just gets wrecked.
And it's funny how there's like an exorcism for one of it goes back to the past, and then it was like this English priest is explaining to this guy what he has to do.
Yeah.
the guy's like, I don't speak English. It's like, Korean, please. Even though he does kind of figure a way
and
out.
the guy just leaves.
He just leaves because it's just like, it looks more cinematic. Yeah. And I did actually find it pretty cool when in Handsome Guys there's like this golden revolver bullet that can only kill the demon. And like through like, a series of circumstances it's broken. But then like Mina's the one that has to like find it and pick it up. And then it kind of leads up to it because she attaches it to like this nail gun.
Yeah.
She spent time with Sung-gu, and it's kind of like a cute moment. But then she kind of has her like badass action movie star moment where I'm not sure if she says a witty line, but it just looks cool. Like, she just
Headshots
attaches the bullet to it. Yeah, headshots the demon. Yeah. It's fun, So I didn't mind that. But yeah, I just feel like it's a little bit tacked on.
Yeah.
And because the occult element, I guess what they were supposedly trying to do is remake Tucker and Dale, but give it like a Korean spin. But it's still very much a Christian feeling demon.
But like you said, it is called also kind of a homage to The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
The setting.
So I think I think he really wanted to really liked Evil Dead. It might have been, maybe, I'm not sure if it's overdone or not, or maybe he just didn't want to do it that way. But like, if there was kind of this more Korean occult style worth of
Exuma.
I mean Korean, Exuma style, it might have made a little bit more sense.
Oh yeah,
but
if the priest was a shaman instead, that would have been pretty fun.
But like, I think doing that, I feel like, because there's been so many of those Korean movies where there's a shaman.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of Christians in Korea as well. So
there's like Christians. There's a lot of Christians as well. So I have a feeling that the director was probably like, I don't want to do another fucking Korean, because it does kind of pigeonhole you, I guess.
And it is just kind of the movie is more of an homage to Western horror tropes as well than Korean horror tropes.
Yeah, I think so. But like, I don't know, I might have preferred the Korean if they just gave it that little bit of extra like kimchi kimbap taste to it. And it might have been like a bit more culturally relevant, but I don't think the guy was going for that. I think at the end of the day, what they were trying to make was just a really fun movie. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, they succeeded in it, Like, I'm not really sure which one I like better, because I kind of enjoyed both of them. I think I probably like Tucker and Dale just a little bit more because it kind of was a bit more concise, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't say Tucker and Dale has graphic violence, but it does have some pretty like strong gore moments, which I think is lacking in the second one. I think probably what's better in Handsome Guys is the characters overall are better.
Yeah.
And some of the relationships are better in Handsome Guys, whereas Tucker and Dale, its focus on its key characters is a bit better, I suppose, as well. So I'm not sure which one you would go for. I mean,
it's probably a matter of taste, really. Like if you don't want to read subtitles, I guess watch Tucker and Dale.
Watch Tucker and Dale.
Because they are pretty similar at the end of the day.
They're very similar.
like you get it. It's the same concept. Yeah, I do agree with you that it is a bit of a waste building up Lee Sung-bin as an antagonist only to have a goat possess him at the end of the day. So maybe that could have been handled better. But yeah, I'm not totally opposed to the idea of adding occult elements to this story.
Yeah. Because I think it still had a lot of fun. It kind of made the movie a bit longer, but like it never felt like it was boring. And all the stuff that is explained in the occult elements and all the stuff that is shown, it's still enjoyable. It's still funny.
And Park Ji-won adds a lot.
Yeah.
Just put him in everything, I reckon. He's always
He's
gold.
really... Every time I see that guy's face, I just have to laugh.
Because the cop in Tucker and Dale is kind of a nothing character. Like he meets the
not
same
really.
end.
Yeah,
but
you're right. Yeah.
But like in
He's
this,
just the guy,
in Handsome Guys, there's like a through line.
Well, I think that's probably the benefit of... I assume Handsome Guys had a bigger budget than Tucker and Dale.
Yeah.
Because I think Lee Sung-min, Lee Hee-jun are probably veteran actors. And I think they've been in a lot of stuff. And obviously, Park Ji-won's been in a lot of stuff as well. So there's a lot more like...
Alan Tudyk's been in a lot of stuff.
I mean, like Alan Tudyk is... I've seen him in
Alan
a fair
Tudyk
few
went
things.
to Juilliard, Tavi. Did you know that?
Yeah. Alan Tudyk is pretty funny. Yeah. But everyone else, I'm not sure who I've seen in other movies.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm just having a look at Jesse Moss as Chad.
Yeah.
As the main villain. He's in The Uninvited.
Oh, okay.
So he's in, one of the worst movies ever made.
I wonder how he feels about remakes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh man, The Uninvited, horrible movie. But yeah, no, it's a bit of fun. Like I'm not sure if I've got that much more to say.
I think that's good. I think Handsome Guys, bit of fun. I don't know if watching both of these versions is necessary. It's probably just a one or the other situation. But this one is newer, so if you like newer stuff, then go watch this one.
Yeah, I think as a remake, it was successful, and I don't want to just be like, if it's a Korean remake, but you hate remakes so much, why don't you hate this one? I think it's a good remake because
it's good.
It's basically the same. It adds some new elements, but it doesn't detract like too much. It's not insulting to the original one. I think
captures the spirit of it.
Yeah. It's not it's not dumbing down anything.
It's the same cannot be said for a lot, not all, but a lot of Western remakes of Asian movies.
I mean, have you seen the Western remake of Shudder? Because I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't. That's got named Joshua Jackson in it, right?
Yeah. Jessica Alba. She's been a little bit tainted ever since.
Does Shudder have?
No, she was Shudder. Jessica Alba's in that one as well. Actually, no, I might be wrong. I think I'm wrong. Actually, I don't know. No, I'm thinking of it was that Australian chick that's in
Rachel Taylor
the remake. Yeah. My bad. Jessica Alba.
Yeah, Jessica Alba was in The Eye.
Jessica Alba was in The Eye.
Also, I think it was okay as a remake. It was not the worst one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Old Boy is the worst one.
Yeah. I mean, depending on whether or not this is released before or after, you will see us again in our Killer remake.
Oh yeah, that's probably the worst one.
Versus we haven't seen it yet at this point, but it's probably the worst one.
That's probably the worst one.
It's probably the worst one.
I'd be really surprised if the remake of The Killer captures the spirit of the original.
I would be so surprised.
Although it does have John Woo at the helm, if that counts for anything.
I might have to watch it with Boone over drinks or something, because I think I would be too sad watching it on my own.
Yeah.
I think I need some reinforcements. I need to complain to someone while I'm watching it. I need to be there and just sit there and groan and be a massive pain to whoever's watching the movie with me.
That sounds like fun for everyone.
Yeah, it is. It is quite fun.
Well, I think that's us for Handsome Guys, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, but what did you think of this movie, guys? If you've seen it, did you prefer this one or did you prefer Tucker and Dale versus Evil? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram at 2asianblokes to see what we're up to. look forward to our The Killer episode, either coming soon or already past.
Oh my God.
It's going to be very bitter.
It'd be funny if we actually liked
Imagine
that
if it
movie
was
and never
good.
released-
Imagine, Dami, if it was good. I would love it, actually. But
It'll, yeah. I don't think I'm prepared to eat my words yet. I haven't put the words MSG like on the counter yet, but we'll see how we go.
if it is good, we can still complain about the marketing behind it.
Yeah, but it'll be bad, so we'll be fine. We can still complain. Look forward to a negative review because people like negativity, and that's how the internet is won. But until then, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.